founder of Opportunities Knocking, which is a little company that I started to enhance careers, to do networking in a little bit different way, a little easier way, a way where you can meet people in a more intimate kind of environment. And then after that's over, the room opens up and it's a lot easier to then get in touch with everybody else, rather than the opposite, where you walk into a big room and sort of wonder where you start. So the way we do that is we do that with what I call a spin net, which is where each person at the table introduces themselves for 30 seconds and does what they call an elevator speech, which says who you are, what you've done, and what you'd like to do, all in 30 seconds. So we have timers at all the tables. So somebody will be a timer at each table, and they'll start it. At 30 seconds, it's over, you go to the next person. After 15 minutes, and after everybody has exchanged cards, we need a volunteer gonger, and when the gong goes off, then you change tables. So in a group like this, I think that we may have almost 2 full tables if everybody shows up. So we'll be just changing between 3 tables. So we worked this out after the first meeting last month, thanks to John and his suggestion, and then my wife coming up with the ingenious idea of how to mix everybody. So it's pretty simple. I'll go through that after. And we have, tonight we have Brian Johnston presenting. He's an independent recruiter. And I'll give you my little 5-minute blurb like I do every meeting on guerrilla job search tactics. And after that, we have a refreshment break. I decided to bring out the attendance sheet at that time, so if anybody comes late, we'll capture everybody who's been here. And there's a part at the end that says, I'm planning on coming next week. The first time it was out front when you hadn't even been here, so you might not know if you're coming again. So I hope everybody says yes at the break time. And then if you brought any companies that you're interested in getting into, we have another form that I'll circulate at the same time that puts your name on it, which company you'd like to get in touch with, and maybe somebody in the room will have a contact for you. And then if you put your email down, well, you will do that on the attendance sheet. I'll match it up and send the information out to you. Or you can just copy it from the sheet. So that's the general format. Let's just get started. This thing keeps conking out on me, so let's do it this way. That didn't work.
If you just click the arrows.
Which one? Just click that one? Oh, okay. Okay. So this is the agenda for the meeting. As I said, it's the introduction. Finding the hiring manager is what I'll be speaking about tonight. At 6:10, Brian takes over. We're running a little bit late. Then we'll have the break, the spin net, and then at 8 o'clock we have the optional open room. So you can stick around and talk about whatever, talk with who you'd like, and sort of have a good time. 10 p.m., we're out of here. Okay, so if you remember last week, where we left off, we were talking about how you discover the company. So you found a blind ad, and this ad was for Mel's Griot. I think that's how you pronounce it. When I called the company, that's the way the recording pronounced it. And we showed how we could go from the blind ad to figuring out that it was Mel's Griot. So now what we're going to do is, now that we know it's Mel's Griot, now we're going to see if we discover who the hiring manager is. The reason this is important is because everything that you do in your job search should be focused on the hiring manager that's going to say yes to you, that's going to give you the job. It's sometimes difficult to figure out who that is because they hide under layers of people because they don't want to be bothered, especially today when they could have 1,000 resumes for a given slot, depending on what the slot is. So it's your job as a detective to figure out who that is, get to that person and say, I'm the guy. This is just a screenshot from what we had last week, where we were looking for this mechanical engineer too, and we figured out that was Mel Griot. So now, I just went through this last Sunday, and I didn't know how it was gonna end up. It turned out it worked pretty good. But I ended up going in a whole different way than I started to get to the hiring manager. So the first thing I do is I sometimes look at these job reference numbers, because occasionally, it's sort of hard to see, but there's a CA and a number. Sometimes, should we lower the lights a little? Would that help? Maybe if you can, yeah, thanks, John. Maybe that'll be a little bit easier to see. They're right, oh, is that it? Okay. Does that make it any easier to see?
It's very small.
Okay. So sometimes these two letters are the letter of the initials of the hiring manager. They don't always do that, and I think in this particular case, after going through a few searches, it seems like CA means Carlsbad, because I found some other facilities, and the first two letters seem to allude to the location. But I didn't know that, so I always note what that number is. So as I say here, I looked around, and that reference number didn't do much for me, so I went to another tack. I went to search for people at Mellis Griot, and I went to LinkedIn, because I think LinkedIn is just a phenomenal website for doing job search. You can look for people, you can look for companies. So I just looked for Mellis Griot. I found 3 people's names. That went into the hopper, but I didn't do anything with that yet. Then I went to search some more, and I found, oh, here's a picture of someone named Sherry. Now, she's a marketing manager, but we were looking for a hiring manager for mechanical engineering. But my point here is it doesn't really matter, because sometimes people will help you. If you call them up and say, I'm looking for a job, and they know how bad it is out there, and if you maybe, sometimes they'll even ask you a little bit about yourself to see if you're, maybe you can help their company. I mean, they want to keep their job. So it sometimes helps to contact somebody like Sherry and say, could she help you? And I found another guy, and he's actually an engineer, but he's on the opposite coast, it's the New York area. I don't know if you can see that. But it doesn't matter, because he probably works cross-continent with somebody in California. So he's even closer. He's a system engineer, you're an engineer, talk to him.